Expect more. This is 6 News at 5.
Nobody seems to care. It's just ridiculous, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right now on 6 News at 5, who's responsible for lost mail and packages? We're going to break it all down.
And it's a weather aware day. Severe storms off to our east. Could they impact our Friday night football plans? We'll talk about it.
And Friday fireworks in the Ken Paxton impeachment trial. We'll tell you the most compelling moments from testimony today. Good evening and thanks for joining us on your Friday. I'm Lindsay Lippman.
Welcome in, everybody. So glad you're here. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. I'm Chris Radcliffe. Rain finally coming into the forecast. Could it be? Meteorologist Matt Farrell joins us now with this weather aware forecast. Hey, Matt.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. We talked about these storms off to our east during the headlines, but as we take a look at our area, nothing here just yet. But as we head through the rest of the evening, and of course, it's a Friday, and we all know what that means, Friday night football plans, right? So let's take a look at what our forecast could look like over the next couple of hours. Storms moving in from the east could impact primarily the Brazos Valley. For most of central Texas, it looks like we're going to stay pretty much dry tonight, but a few areas, like I said, off to our east could experience a few of those storms, so keep that in mind. And if you are making your plans to head out to those Friday night football stadiums, again, it is still just another hot day across the area, 107 to 108. That's right now. That's not the daytime high. This is what's happening right now, and we're going to keep the hot weather in the forecast at least one more day as we see temperatures back up to about 103, 104 across the area for your Saturday as well. We're going to talk about when that heat could break, and we're going to take a deeper dive into those storms coming up in just a little bit.
Forward to it. Thanks, Matt. Well, let's call it what it is. Shocking testimony this afternoon in Austin as we wrap up day 4 of the Ken Paxton impeachment trial. 6 News reporter William Johnson brings us the very latest on the employee who claims he was fired for coming forward.
Yeah, Chris, this is probably the most dynamic testimony we've heard from the trial thus far. And today we saw 2 witnesses take the stand. Ryan Vassar, who served under Paxton as a former deputy attorney general. The other, David Maxwell, the former director of law enforcement for the state of Texas. Vassar was questioned by Paxton's lawyers about what evidence he brought to the FBI. The most compelling testimony, though, came from Maxwell. Being the head of law enforcement, Maxwell became aware of Paxton's relationship to Nate Paul, so he warned his boss.
I told him that all you're doing is using the power and the prestige of this office for your own purpose, and I'm not going to allow that.
The former director says he warned Paxton about a possible indictment. By that time, Maxwell says he had no further contact with the AG.
I knew then what his commitment was to Nate Paul, and he was not going to be deterred from continuing to try and do things that benefit Nate Paul.
In fact, Maxwell says Paxton threatened to fire him if he pursued it. Eventually, Maxwell came forward to law enforcement like many others, and he says it cost him his job.
Well, in firing me, at the time I was 71 years old and had risen to a top level of law enforcement. In effect, when he fired me and then berated me in the news, he ended my career.
Paxton's attorneys then began questioning Maxwell about his specific dealings with the Attorney General, including his loyalty to the office. This is the first testimony we've heard of Paxton firing an employee who claims he was retaliated against for trying to do the right thing. I'm William Johnson with 6 News.
Thanks for that update, William. Meanwhile, Dan Patrick, who is serving as the presiding officer, says that we should be at about the halfway point for the evidence portion of the trial, but the decision could still take a matter of weeks.
A new poll found a majority of Texas voters approve of the border buoys in the Rio Grande River. The Texas Politics Project asked 1,200 people their thoughts on the buoys and the barbed wire at the Rio Grande River to deter migration. 52% say they support it. 40% were opposed, and the other 7% expressed no opinion. The floating barrier is in the center of a legal battle. Late last night, an appeals court decided the barrier can stay in the water, blocking a ruling declaring it needed to be moved to the riverbank.
And new tonight, a jury sentenced a Killeen man to 30 years in prison for his role in the 2021 6th Street mass shooting in Austin. DeAndre White was found guilty of the murder of 25-year-old Douglas Cantor. During testimony, White told jurors he felt threatened by a group of men who walked up to him and his friends, and one of them was reaching for a gun. Well, the defense argued White shot in self-defense. The state said White did not act reasonably or responsibly.
DeAndre would never want anyone to believe that he went out there with the intention to hurt anybody. He feels terrible about what happened, is terribly remorseful about all the people that were injured.
We're comforted that at least some measure of justice occurred in the courthouse tonight.
A second person in this case, Jeremiah Tabb, faces tampering with evidence charges. He's due in court for a pretrial hearing next week. Well, tonight, Central Texans are wondering who's responsible for a lost package.
It can be really frustrating. 6 News reporter Sydney Deshawn spoke with a supply chain management expert and verifies what to do if this happens to you. Sydney?
Chris and Lindsay, this all comes after a Salado homeowner emailed us about who exactly is responsible for a lost package. She says the package wasn't stolen from her porch and it wasn't lost in the mail. She says the carrier just accidentally gave it to someone else.
Too bad.
Those were the words a Salado homeowner says she heard from her mail carrier. This happened after her USPS package was delivered but never showed up. She says USPS admitted to putting it in her neighbor's mailbox because it was bigger and would fit.
She left me a handwritten note in my mailbox saying, sorry that I did this, but they said that they didn't receive it.
The homeowner called the Postmaster General. However, she was just back at square one.
It's not like you put it on my front porch and somebody drove by and took it. She put it in someone else's mailbox. And they said, again, she is not liable as a government employee to reimburse me for a stolen package. Why are they not liable?
So let's verify who is responsible for a lost package. Our source is Lefteris Iakovu, an expert in the supply chain management field at Texas A&M University. He says each situation varies, but for this case, it is the seller's responsibility.
They do have insurance policies that cover these claims with the carriers. So I urge consumers to reach out to retailers.
Our source says buyers have to be cautious, especially with smaller retailers. Some might not always have insurance policies. That's why it's important to do research when ordering from small businesses.
Nothing negative about the smaller retailers. All we're saying is let's do our due diligence. Let's make sure that we can confirm in advance that there's an easy way to contact the e-tailer if something bad happens.
So we can verify each scenario is different, but it is best to contact the seller in particular to this situation because they typically have insurance policies with carriers.
Now, our source also told us it's important to send something over in a written format so there's always record of what has happened before. If you have something you would like verified, you can just email us at verify@kcentv.com, guys.
All right, so she's going to have to contact the company she bought it from, correct?
Yes.
All right, Sydney, thanks so much.
Meanwhile, Texas DPS canceled most driver's license appointments yet again today. Appointments have been canceled since Tuesday. The agency is blaming a system upgrade that took place over Labor Day weekend. DPS saying that it's giving those affected priority rebooking. The Department of Public Safety reported there are no security issues at this time.
The new Baylor College of Medicine campus in Temple will provide a huge economic boost to Central Texas. The campus opened just a few weeks ago and class is already in session. The new study by economist Dr. Ray Perryman found the campus and the graduates who stay in the area will provide a $150 million annual impact. The campus is also expected to build a stronger healthcare system in Texas as medical students often continue to practice where they train. Still ahead, it's time to get out the Windex. The third film of the popular franchise, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, hits theaters. Plus, more for your entertainment in an all-new director's chair.
That made me laugh. That's funny, Lindsay. Okay, and don't blink or you're going to miss him. We'll introduce you to the pride of Conley High, running back Kiefer Sibley, as our player of the week. Why he's not just playing for a college opportunity on the field each week. We're going to have that story. This is 6 News at 5.